gentlemen. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, since we have some politicians present, could you please be so kind and take your seats so that we can start the conference? Would be very kind. Thank you. much easier to understand me. Now, dear colleagues, dear friends, good afternoon and boa tarde. Welcome to JIRB's 62nd annual meeting and conference. It is a really great honor to welcome you here in person and to see all of you here in sunny Lisbon for this conference. I wish to thank the JIRB team not only for their hard work in putting together such an engaging and exciting program, but also for holding this conference in Lisbon, not sending us somewhere cold and rainy. I wish to thank all of you for joining us here from all corners of the world. We have our dear friends from America and other parts of the world, so that is a really big pleasure. And on this occasion, almost a year ago, I was delivering a similar speech from my living room because the meeting was online. And at this time, we eagerly anticipated the results of the first trials of vaccines against COVID-19. So since the rollout of these vaccines in March, our sector has proven its resilience and our ability not only to absorb shocks, but to use them to build best practices and innovative solutions. Today, our sector distributes COVID-19 vaccines in 19 countries across Europe, and in 11 countries, we are even handling 100% of them. Our initiatives, other initiatives, such as the proposal of an extended mandate for the European Medicines Agency and the European Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, also place our members at the heart and the table of the healthcare sector as key actors in the initiative strengthening the pharmaceutical supply chain, developing innovative tools, technologies, and monitoring and mitigating the risk of shortages of critical medicines and medical devices. If there is one thing the pandemic has taught us, it is how valuable each and every individual is, how important it is to beyond the one-size-fits-all approach to treating patients, to understand each individual's unique medical history, to determine the best path of treatment. Under this approach, we have curated the conference for this year, and it's called Health 5.0, towards individual central well-being services with key intervention from the most prominent actors of the healthcare sector, including Mr. Vice President Skinas. Thank you for coming. The Vice President and also responsible in the Commission for promoting our European way of life, and also Dr. Diogo Serras Lopes, Secretary of State for Health here in Portugal. We've also gathered our leading experts and key players in the sector to come together for a host of panel sessions exploring the most important issues our sector is currently facing, including digitalization and data, COVID-19 vaccines, and the future of healthcare in general. I expect that we will get to hear many great examples of what digital tools are bringing and will bring to our sector. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing all of them. Finally, as we have all been behind screens with little real-time interaction and engagement, I would like to encourage you to participate in the sessions as actively as possible. So this is what I believe will drive and really make the conversation and conference. For this, there are two options. Just raise your hand, and as soon as provided with a microphone, please speak up to ask your questions directly to our experts. There is no mute button anymore like it used to be the case in all the online conferences. Otherwise, you can bring forward your questions by reverting to our mobile application. I guess some of you know our app already. All of you should have received an invitation to download it to your smartphones. And if you hadn't yet, I highly recommend you to do so at once through your app store. You can find instructions right behind me on the screen. And please do not hesitate to ask our staff at the registration desk once you need assistance. I would also like to invite you to follow us on our LinkedIn and Twitter platform using the hashtag JIRBAMC 2021. And now, before I finish, I would like to briefly extend a warm thank you to all our speakers who have agreed to share with us their insights and their vision on the future of healthcare. But all this would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our long-standing and also new partners, namely IQVIA, KNAPP, Inside Health, SSI Schäfer, CAPI, Sensitech, BD Roba, Excellis Europe, Thermo King, Right Hand Robotics, and the newest one, Biosemedics. So I would also like to thank the team of ADIFA, who played a key role in building this conference and putting together this fantastic program. We truly appreciate your input and the time and effort you dedicated to this event. It is my pleasure to now give the floor to the person without whom any of this would not have been possible, and this is Mr. Nuno Cardoso, who is president of ADIFA. Nuno, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Dear Mr. Vice President, for promoting our European way of life of the European Commission, dear Bern, dear JERP team, dear ADIFA members, dear JERP members, good afternoon to everyone, dear friends and colleagues. On behalf of ADIFA, I'm delighted to welcome you all to Lisbon for the 62nd annual meeting and conference of JERP about Health 5.0 towards customer-centric well-being services. I'm very pleased, and I'm sure you are all as well, to be back to meet you together in this kind of physical events after a very, very difficult 1.5 years for all of us. For the time's sake, I will be very brief. ADIFA was founded almost 5 years ago, and I bet to say that none of our founders ever thought we would need to overcome a pandemic like COVID-19. I dare to say that JERP founders 60 years ago never thought the same either. Probably none of us around this room ever thought that this would be possible. Nevertheless, 1.5 years ago, our life changed dramatically. Everything came to a standstill. Flights were cancelled, companies' headquarters closed, schools went online, and supermarkets had shortage of toilet paper. People stayed home, but the health sector didn't stop for 1 second. Health and social protection became the true priority for everyone. Even in this adverse context, facing the unknown, the full-service pharmaceutical distributors and their teams never stopped, sometimes working 24/7, implementing contingency plans, adapting business continuity plans. Devoted to our public health mission, and despite some differences around Europe, our sector continuously supplied medicines, medical devices, health products, masks, flu vaccines, COVID vaccines. Pharmacies and care providers in all countries relied on a robust pharmaceutical supply chain to keep providing healthcare. And for this, I would like to share with you that I'm very proud of having been a representative of this sector during these periods, and we all should be very proud of the work our sector did and will continue to do. Based on high standards of safety, efficiency, and quality, full-service pharmaceutical distributors, together with pharmacies and the industry, and with the collaboration of authority and policymakers, ensured the right medicines at the right time to the right place for the right patient, even in the most remote location and outermost regions of Europe, such as Madeira and the Azores Islands. The major European pharmaceutical legislation overall in development is a tremendous opportunity for the EU institutions and policymakers to acknowledge the public service role and the function of the full-service healthcare distributors that provide. We always knew, but now it's crystal clear around the world that full-service pharmaceutical distributors are a vital link in the pharmaceutical supply chain. It should also be publicly noted that during this 1.5 years, JERP team was always immensely supportive to all their national members and company members, and I would like to thank Monica Bern and all the team for all the support during this 1.5 years. And for that, please let me ask you all for a round of applause to all of us, to JERP team, to all the national associations, to all the companies of our sector, and to all the health sector and professionals in general. So please. But now it's time to use the lessons learned and leverage them to prepare our sector for next years, to new needs from pharmacies, industry, and patients. Challenges such as the new regulations, the recognition of our sector as a critical infrastructure, the improvement of collaboration with governments, and the environmental sustainability. Some of these will be subject of a discussion during this conference. Several important challenges that we must face optimistically and keep working together, making proposals and adding value to the processes. As someone once said, we just need to keep being stubborn on our vision, but flexible on details. And just to finish on a quick personal note, this will be probably my last public intervention as a DIFA president. So I would like to thank you all for all the collaboration and friendship with me. And especially, I would like to thank to ADIFA's members and team for all their trust, hard work, and friendship for the last 5 years. I hope the risk you all took was worth it. It was quite an honor. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a good conference, and if possible, enjoy a bit of Lisbon late summer. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Nuno. It is now my great pleasure to welcome to the stage the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Margaritis Kinas. Please allow me to tell you what a big honor it is to have you here in Lisbon joining us in person. So we had first the pleasure to meet virtually over a Zoom call just about a year ago when we had the chance to discuss the upcoming pharmaceutical strategy for Europe, and when you also told us of your plans for a more resilient healthcare supply chain in Europe. I did already very much appreciate back then a very frank and honest exchange on how we can work together with you and your team at the Commission to ensure affordable access to healthcare products all across Europe. I also want to reiterate our thanks on behalf of healthcare distributors across Europe for the support provided by the Commission across the last year and a half since COVID broke out in Europe. I remember vividly having trucks carrying essential products stuck at the border in March 2020 between Germany and Austria, and how the Commission acted extremely fast and efficiently, and within days implemented green lanes to ensure that we could still supply pharmacies and patients in those very difficult conditions. I commend you for all your good work and very much look forward to keep working with you and your team at the Commission, especially in the context of the revision of the general pharmaceutical legislation. Thanks again for joining, and Mr. Vice President, please take the floor.
Dear President Grabner, dear President Cardoso, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a pleasure and an honor to be with you. Indeed, I promised to come, and I'm very happy that I managed to honor my promise. Public health and pharmaceuticals is part of our European way of life. It's probably the most important part of our European way of life. This is what makes Europe a unique place with universal systems for public health and education where nobody is left behind. And I would like really to thank GERB, the organizers, with your 750 pharmaceutical wholesale members for promoting such an important and necessary debate around Health 5.0. But also I want to thank you for your key contribution to this nightmarish 18 months we are hopefully leaving behind. You have been trustworthy, reliable, and key partners. Of course, there are many lessons to be drawn from the pandemic, but probably if there is a key lesson, a common denominator that should stay with us, is that this makes us think that the focus should be on individuals. Focus of public policy should be on individuals, not just patients. And this premise is needed now more than ever. Today, we have very good reasons in Europe to look to the future with renewed hope and confidence. Our vaccine strategy allowed citizens across the EU, from Portugal to Finland, to have access to the dawns of science at the same time, under the same conditions, and irrespective of socioeconomic consideration. This has been huge, historical European success story. And it's a success story that unfortunately has not been told enough, as we are still facing many populist voices, doubters, fake news, and disinformation. The story of the EU vaccination program needs now to be told. And this is also a lesson to those who doubted the unity of our European Union. I can still have in my mind the first page of the Bild Zeitung or The Economist attacking the Commission in January and February, saying that they will never make it. It's a flop. Well, I'm very happy that once again we proved the doomsayers and the Cassandras wrong. On the socioeconomic front, the pandemic has also carried a heavy toll, but now recovery is on its way. We took strong action from the very early stages of the pandemic on that front. We helped our member states to support their economies. We put forward flexible state aid frameworks, and we activated the escape clause from the constraints of the Stability and Growth Pact, giving space to our member states to provide discretionary fiscal support to their economies, as never before in Europe. We also protected people's jobs by financing short-time work schemes via an ad hoc European instrument, SURE, that protected around 30 million jobs across the European Union. And as President Gabner said, yes, in the very early difficult weeks of the pandemic, we pushed our member states to accept the green lanes that kept the integrity of our supply chains, kept our supermarkets and pharmacies stocked. And you, your industry represented here, you know very well what this meant for the continuous supply of medicines and health products, especially in these dark moments. And we also created the EU digital certificate in record time, in just 2 months, to allow millions of Europeans, amongst them ourselves today in Lisbon, to travel and resume our normal lives with safety and full compliance of the health security requirements. And today, this is a happy coincidence with your annual assembly, we have just announced an hour ago in Brussels that in the first report of the rollout of the European certificate, we have issued 591 million COVID certificates in Europe. I repeat the number, 591 million certificates in June in Europe. And not only that, we now have 43 countries across the world that have taken up the European COVID certificate, proving once again how the European Union, with swift action, can act as a global standard setter for the world. And finally, always discussing the economic recovery, one should not forget the unprecedented proposal for the creation of a next generation EU recovery fund of a total sum of 750 billion euros that is meant to kickstart growth symmetrically across our union. This money will not be sprayed around, will not be checks that be signed to governments and sectors. This money will allow our economies to transition towards a more modern, digital, green, and individual-centric or anthropocentric health sector, and strengthen our collective resilience against future threats. Drawing on all these policy efforts and an improving health situation, thanks to the vaccines, to the robust rebound of our economy, to the certificate, we are very happy to see that our labor market is also recovering. And the revival of European tourism is also set to have boosted growth in this unforgettable European summer. like we saw also here in this country, in Portugal. All this is good news, and we should give credit where credit is due. At the same time, the success of our past achievements under no circumstances can leave us complacent. We are not yet out of the woods. We still have significant numbers of COVID infections. We also have to face the unknown territory of the mutations of the virus, and we're still facing, in certain parts of our union, not in Portugal, vaccines hesitancy. Vaccines are and remain the central part of our exit strategy from this pandemic. And our work will continue to ensure that not only we reach every European, but also contribute to the global effort across the world. And in a second piece of good news from Brussels that also coincides with your conference today, as if it were planned, we are very happy to announce that today the European Union reached the historic benchmark of 1 billion vaccine doses exported to third countries. So not only we are activating the most massive program of vaccination for our citizens, but we are also live up to our global obligations as a force of good by providing an equal number of doses to third countries. And soon we will complement all these efforts with a portfolio of therapeutics that will help alleviating suffering for those falling ill. This is also a crucial interest for your industry too. But as we now move from firefighting to construction work, as we hopefully leave this period behind, it is equally now important to build a system of new institutional architecture in the way we work, we gather information, we take decisions, and we advance health policy in Europe. This is what we're trying to do by address and bringing together a new constellation of regulatory solutions to create a European health union. For this, and as you probably know, we have already tabled many concrete proposals, and others will follow. Let me take you shortly through this new constellation of the European Health Union. The first pillar of this new construct is our efforts to boost our capacity for preparedness and response, to better prevent and address future pandemics, to be able to act before these health threats hit us. And this includes a broader legislative framework with a number of concrete specific initiatives, a stronger EU health security framework, more efficient and more proactive EU health agencies like the ECDC and the EMA, and the creation of a new structure, a new European Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, known as HERA, which will be the equivalent of the American BARDA, if you like, and will allow us to provide a permanent European structure to boost manufacturing capacities, vaccine development, and medical research in the EU on time, before we need it. But the health union is not only about pandemics and preparedness. It is also about improving the daily life of people across the disease spectrum. And in this view, this Commission has enacted one of the biggest ever comprehensive programs to fight cancer. Fighting cancer will remain a key European battle to win. We have adopted, in February last year, a European Beating Cancer Plan, which represents a fundamental pillar, probably the second pillar of our European Health Union under construction. And within this plan, we're putting together everything that we have at our competence and in our disposal at the EU level. New technologies, research, innovation as a starting point. But the plan also sets out a new EU approach to prevention, treatment, and care, with 4 billion earmarked for these purposes. Finally, to complete the European Health Union, we will launch early next year the European Health Data Space, using digitalization to its full potential and offering secure access to health data will benefit health research and decision-making and will improve healthcare delivery as well. And just to finish the overall story, we have also to put money where our mouth is. And these initiatives will be supported financially by the largest allocation to health ever in the EU budget, with a self-standing program for the next 7 years of 5.3 billion euros, also known as EU for Health program. And this money will be on top of the recovery money that will go to health. Never before the health sector had so many resources available at EU level to steer and consolidate policy. Let me now switch to an area which is closer to your heart and to your interest, because of course this European Health Union, like any temple, any monument, will also need solid foundations. And foundations is a new pharmaceutical strategy, which we have enacted already last year, setting the framework, and we will be implementing with concrete proposals in the next 2 years. The new pharmaceutical strategy for Europe should not be seen only in terms of crisis response or post-pandemic response. Our strategy will set the overall vision for the next decades to address long-standing challenges and take advantage of the opportunities, and also modernize the existing legislation, which is already 25 years old. In real life, this is still youth, but in the competitive regulatory environment, it is not. So we're working now towards making this legislation future-proof, benefiting from digitalization, and we will seek to simplify the rules. We will be very clear in cutting bureaucracy and red tape, because regulatory efficiency is a prerequisite for modern pharmaceutical systems. The strategy includes key actions that aim at promoting investments by making the EU a place where medicines are developed, manufactured, and made available to patients. A key deliverable of this strategy of the pharmaceutical legislation will be a proposal to be tabled next year. As the theme of your conferences recognizes, allow me to highlight the anthropocentric component of this strategy, the people-centric component, which starts from and builds on people. Today, European patients have different access to medicines, depending where they live. And this is not acceptable. This should not be part of our European way of life. With the strategy, we want to improve access to medicines across the European Union. The reasons for the differences in access, the reasons, you know them probably better than me, are multifactorial. They depend on national pricing and reimbursement policies, the organization of health systems, the size of member states' populations, and the resources of the healthcare systems. We cannot change the size of a member state population, but we can take action through increased competition within the EU and the review of incentives that will help us improve access. The pharmaceutical sector is certainly crucial in safeguarding the health, but it's also strategically important not only for people, but also for growth, for the industry, for competitiveness, for jobs, for trade, and for science. So we want a pharmaceutical sector that is competitive in the global context and it's resource efficient. We can support actions to foster more competitiveness of our pharma in the world scene. We can ensure a regulatory framework that allows innovation, that is efficient, and that is on par with that of comparable and competing regions or countries. This is about access, but this implies a precondition, and the precondition is availability. You know better than anybody else how important availability of medicines is to ensure continuous supply. And here, our intention is also clear. We should avoid seeing shortages of medicines ever again in Europe. What we experienced, luckily only in the first 2-3 weeks of the pandemic, should be a constant reminder of the need to ensure at all times availability of medicines in our single market. Being able to produce and supply medicines that match European quality, environmental, and label standards is a matter of strategic autonomy for the European Union. It's not an industrial consideration. It's a major geopolitical one. Ensuring that our sources of supply for critical medicines are sufficiently diversified is also a matter of global security for the European Union. And to better understand where we stand as an EU in this increasingly complex world environment, we have launched a structured dialogue, as we had announced in the pharmaceutical strategy, and now we are building a good picture of the functioning of the global supply chains, because we need to know where real vulnerabilities exist before taking corrective action. And I want to seize this occasion to thank GERB for your commitment and your contribution to the first stage of this process. Now, this structured dialogue has concluded in its first phase. We are now carefully analyzing all the information gathered, and the idea is to come at a later stage with options, concrete options on how to ensure the security of supply of critical medicines, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and raw materials in our union. Dear friends, let me conclude this intervention that kickstarts also the day's proceedings with 4 final messages. Message number 1 is digitalization. The pandemic has changed all we do and how we do it. And like any other major crisis, it also brought opportunities to do things differently and better. And one clear opportunity for this is clearly digitalization, which is here to stay. For the future, I see a greater emphasis on developing and using innovative technologies in the health remit. Imaging, artificial intelligence, high robotics, all these are enablers for more personalized and efficient health services. And this is coming. Let's make the EU pioneer in this sector. Beg your pardon. The second message is about skills. We need skills in Europe, especially in the medical sector. We should give people the opportunity to improve their capacities during the lifespan, addressing skill gaps and allowing professionals to keep pace of science and innovation. And I warmly invite you all, as an industry, to join our efforts under our new skills agenda and the Pact for Skills that enable us to match skill shortages with offers both training and expertise. Message number 3 is innovation. There is no better time than now for modernizing the healthcare systems and invest in innovation. With the unprecedented EU financial support, both from the recovery instrument and our research and innovation funds Horizon, we are financing the biggest research program in the world. And we have now a golden opportunity to make things better. And also here in Portugal, national reforms and new investments in the healthcare sector provide for a unique opportunity for the Portuguese health sector to thrive as part of this emerging European reality. Fourth and last message, synergies. I wish to underline that we at the European Commission cannot achieve all this alone. We need the contribution of all the key actors, international, national, but also stakeholders like you. Together, we need to work to provide better health services to citizens and promote a more anthropocentric, more individual-focused approach. And if you like a better term than individual and anthropos, let's say human-centric approach. Because there's nothing else, nothing more important, nothing more relevant when discussing health policy than people. Thank you for having me. I wish you all the very best for your Congress. Yep.
Mr. Vice President, may I just ask you one question, of course?
Shall we sit or do it?
Whatever you like.
Huh?
Of course.
Let's sit. Why not?
Yeah, okay.
It's arranged.
Thank you. Of course, our sector stands ready to very much support the Commission's plans, especially in making medicines throughout Europe available. And I think there is a lot that we can contribute. And of course, the overhaul of the pharmaceutical legislation for us is absolutely key. And you've been mentioning the structured dialogue in which we, for our choice, saw a slight overweight of the pharmaceutical industry. So our question would be, if we want to contribute in shaping the future of healthcare and to contribute what we can to availability of medicines in Europe, what would you recommend to our sector and also to other supply chain partners somewhat underrepresented in the process so far? How can we make our voices heard, and how can we approach policy makers and decision makers like you to make our voices heard? That is my key question, actually.
Okay, you would understand that I cannot advise you how to lobby me.
This was not, no, of course.
But what I can share with you is a few thoughts on your important relations with the pharma industry. I mean, I really cannot dissociate your sector from pharma. You are like, it's like trying to separate hot from cold water. It's part of the same supply chain. The issues are more or less the same. And okay, I admit that the pharma industry, pharma proper, had a stronger presence in the early phases of the structured dialogue. But I think for obvious reasons, because on many aspects of the ones discussing of raw materials, of dependency, they are a bit more exposed than you are, because you are coming into the picture once these questions have been somehow addressed. So I want, first of all, to tell you that we never distinguished dogmatically your sector from pharma proper. proof of that is that I'm always available on both sides and on both activities. The second thing I wanted to say is that you were part also of the consultations, and you will continue to be part of these consultations. But now, and we had 2 rounds of consultations, 2 workshops this year, one in May and another one in July, and we have 2 more now in autumn, in October and December, I think. So I want to assure everybody here, but also your most efficient and effective Brussels team, that you will always be in the picture of this structured dialogue. But I also want to take this opportunity to share with you that in my mind, as it is the case also with my colleagues, Thierry Breton, who is more in charge of industry, and Stella Kyriakides, who is in charge of health, under no circumstances, the three of us that are piloting the overall pharma strategy review, we never thought of this as a galaxy with competing planets. We want the planets to align, and that's what we will continue to do.
Thank you very much for this interesting and encouraging statement.
Another inquiry is coming.
I may join you on stage now for a last question. Oops. You have outlined on the overhaul of the pharmaceutical legislation, which is upcoming. My question would be more on the short term. There is a piece of legislation now in the final phase of the report in the European Parliament on the critical entities. And the European Parliament has added us as critical entity. There is, of course, a lot of obligations involved with being classified as critical entity, and we would like to know, or it would be of interest, whether the Commission is planning any measures to help those companies then classified as critical entities to fulfill their role.
Yes, that's also mine, I must say, because I'm in charge of this proposal, but under another hat, the head of the Vice President responsible for Security Union. So this is meant to be as part of our Security Union drive. And probably for those who do not follow in more detail, a bit of context, we wanted to align the level of protection that Europeans can enjoy against threats in the digital world and in the physical world. So Europeans should have the certainty that all security threats, irrespective of the broader ecosystem that they originate, they would be treated with the same level of response, provide the same level of protection. So we constructed a package, which is now being discussed in the European Parliament, that brings together the digital protection with a text which is called NIS, Network Information System, and another on physical protection, which is called Critical Entities Resilience, with the awful abbreviation NIS and SER. So this is how it looks like, and I think within the critical entities proposal, your sector was not included.
No. Exactly.
And I speak as the author of the proposal, and I thought that it would be more relevant to include the pharma proper than the healthcare distributors. There you see, I consider you one thing, but still can dissociate you. For this reason. Now, what happened, we live in a democracy, the European Parliament, if I understand well, is considering to add you also as part of the critical entities resilience. This is okay with us. You know that we have to agree on any Parliament proposals. So I think it's okay. And now the question is, you see, I'm starting replying the question 5 minutes after you asked it. But now the question is, by being part of this regulatory environment, your sector would be required to take some extra measures, some extra precautions. Because being part of a critical entity means that the member states would have to provide assurances that we have buffers of protection, requirements. So first of all, we do not yet know if you will be in, but I think you will be. So in case you will be in, we are ready as European Commission to work directly with you, with the sector, to find ways of helping you build these resilience buffers. But also, I think that would require a trilateral discussion also with member states, because member states will have to spell out at the national level the kind of requirements this would entail. That's it? No more questions?
If there are no more questions, then we would
Thank you very much.
like to warmly thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So a very warm thank you, Mr. Vice President, for this excellent overview on what our sector has to expect in the future. And we truly appreciate having had you here in Lisbon with us. I know it was a long-term plan. The pandemic has delayed our conference here in Lisbon, but we are nevertheless more than happy to have finally made it and come here together after more than 2 years where we didn't have a physical in-person annual meeting. And we would like to wish you all the best of luck for your not easy job at hand and for the many projects and legal proposals the Commission will still make during its current mandate. Thanks a lot. We have really appreciated to have you here. And it's now my great pleasure and honor to invite to stage Dr. Diogo Serras Lopes, the Secretary of State of Portugal. Dr. Lopes, it's really an honor to have you here. Portugal just held the presidency of the European Union at an extremely important point of time, and you have certainly left a mark and achieved important steps during your presidency. We are also very admirative of your vaccination campaign, which has provided extremely successful. The rate was announced to be over 85%. And yeah, Commission Vice President was just talking about vaccination hesitancy. You have found the miracle button or the miracle tool to overcome the vaccination hesitancy here in Portugal. We thank you very much for welcoming us in your beautiful country. And with this, Dr. Lopes, I would like to invite you to the floor and to address the audience.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Well, those were really nice words. It's actually 85% of the population, but if you think about the eligible ones, well, we have nobody else to vaccinate, which is nice. It gave a lot of work, really a lot of work, but it went well. And what we feel is that it's really important, as we almost have no, well, very low hospitalization cases, very low deaths, and that's really important. Let's hope it goes on like this. So, dear President at the European Healthcare Distribution, dear President at ADIFA, dear speakers and audience. First of all, of course, let me thank you for the invitation to be here at this annual conference. It is a great pleasure to be with you today, in person and not just a little square on a computer screen, talking about a topic that it's very dear to me, customer-centric, people-centric well-being services. About this, I would like to ask you to indulge me just for a minute as I share, well, you probably all heard of this story, but I think it's a great example of the idea that people must be in the center of everything we do. I don't know if all of you remember the series, the BBC series, Yes, Prime Minister. But there was a sitcom there was an episode where a brand new hospital was inaugurated, and it was beautiful, fully staffed, 500 workers. One of the best managed hospitals in the country, nominated for several awards for top efficiency, with only one small downside: it had no patients. Everything worked like a charm. It was absolutely brilliant, but it served absolutely no one. The minister, at a certain point, finds out about this, and he insists that the hospital actually should start admitting patients and taking care of persons, and the other bureaucracy around him look at him with a strange face and say, "Why?" Obviously, this is an exaggeration for laughability, but it is not without resonance to some things that do happen in our real world. Obviously, it's extremely important that the professionals have the right skills, have the right motivation, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, there's only one important thing that we do here, and that is giving more health to our citizens. Well, I have been talking quite a lot about people centrality for some time now, not only because it is something in which I personally truly believe, but also because it is the way we are working to reshape our national health service, aligned with our new health general law from 2019 that is very clear about how important are people's rights and how they should be at the very core of our health system. However, to make sure these aren't just words written down on a paper, to fully turn this into a reality, we are actually putting our money where our mouth is. Our recovery and resilience plan, which the European Commission Vice President just spoke, means something like a boost of 1.2 billion euros to strengthen our national health system. This is obviously a nice amount, not to mention a huge opportunity to accelerate long-due reforms, but it is completely worthless if it is not used in the best interest of our citizens. That is why we are reforming our primary care system to make it more proactive and integrated and better equipped, not only to solve people's problems, but to essentially try to anticipate them. To make sure that every person counts and that we can intervene on an early stage in everything that may potentially harm its well-being, may this be health-related or any other nature, such as social issues. For this purpose, we are also improving the connection between health and other government areas, such obviously as, or the first one is social security. That is also why we are working to involve our citizens, their families, and the whole community as NHS active partners by fostering programs such as the informal caregiver or by increasing health literacy to empower people. Or why we are developing a proximity scheme that allows people to receive their medicines where it is most convenient to them, being it in a pharmacy, being it at their home. There are a lot of good examples out there, and we are very, very close to reach a final decision on the model we want to foster. Finally, we are strongly committed to keeping our NHS sustainable for everybody by negotiating the fairer prices for our medicines, working on prescription process and on evaluation procedures in every financial approval given to new medicines. However, our health reforms and investments really need to be supported by a solid digital backbone. the right systems and platforms to gather, store, analyze, and share information to support all of these processes. At the very core of this health reform, there is digital transformation. Data is king, as it's commonly said. We actually do know that data values is the most valuable thing you can trade. But the potential to store it and use it is growing at an amazing rate. In fact, the majority of the world's data has come about in only the past 2 years. And so the velocity at which we are creating it is simply amazing. This means that we now have this powerful tool that we can use to improve our knowledge on the wider population, but also to find out more about each individual. It means we can have paperless exams or prescriptions, as we actually already do. The prescriptions, not the exams, but give me another year. That we can have appointments with our patients from a distance, or that we can share more information in a quicker way to make better and more informed decisions. Of course, we are not doing this all on our own. The COVID pandemic has shown us that the health challenges aren't constrained by borders, creeds, flag colors, or whatever difference you may state. That is why we need greater knowledge, cooperation, and solidarity. It is now very, very clear and assumed by the entire society that we need to strengthen our collaboration in the health area and increase access to both medicines and medical devices. And obviously, this access talks about your association and what you do, but also to prepare Europe for future threats that are sure to arise. This means fighting the scarcity of medicine. This means boosting production in the European Union, areas in which the European Parliament is already working, as we all heard, but also the European Commission. But essentially, and in this idea that we need to work towards a European Health Union, of which I am a great supporter, we definitely have to improve transparency in the negotiation of prices for medicines and medical devices. We have to work as not mid-size, small-size, or large-size countries, but as 500 million customers or 500 million citizens that actually have the power to deal with something that is definitely a threat. And it's really something that we must tackle in the next, it's not in the medium term, it starts to be almost a short-term thing, which is the rising cost of medicines in the health system, that it's not going to go away or improve in the next few years. And that has a lot to do with the idea of individual-centric well-being, right? We are creating, as we speak, medicines that are actually for you. Now, it's not for everybody that suffers from diabetes. It's for that person who has that condition, and it will work on them and not so well in someone else. This is obviously brilliant in terms of the quality of life that it can give to people, and it's obviously expensive. So it will be a strain. It will be a strain on our national budgets and on the European Union that believes in public health, that believes in public schools, that thinks that the welfare state is something that we fought a lot to have, and it shouldn't be wasted easily. Well, all these ideas were in fact reinforced during the pandemic. We can also only solve a major crisis if we do it together. We didn't start with the right foot. when COVID-19 started. Those first few weeks were very, very difficult. But what happened for example, with the vaccination process is a great demonstration then that when we do work together, things go a lot quicker and a lot easier. Were it not for the people being the only thing that really matters, we wouldn't see the resilience of our health workers that kept on and keep on fighting to save lives, or new vaccines that were developed and approved in record time, making it easier now to maybe solve some of the red tape surrounding the approval of new medicines. The purpose of everything we do, as I said, is obviously to serve people, or else we'll be a super efficient hospital with no patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can sit as well.
We can,
the
of course.
example.
In the center?
Yeah, of course. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary of State for Health, for the honor to be here to share with us some of the lessons learned and what our government is doing to look forward for the health and how we can develop our health system. We have, of course, several questions, but due to time's sake, I'll ask you one simple question. This is due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is currently taking place a discussion on European level on improving the resilience of our healthcare systems in the face of a cross-border health crisis. Which measures, in your view, will be crucial to best prepare member states and Europe for such a new occurrence?
Yeah. Well, first, I think my mic is...
for me, okay.
The first answer is obviously our recovery and resilience plan, right? It's called resilience plan for something, and it's built on 5 major areas, which are all citizen-centric. I don't like to say customer-centric because we sometimes people don't take that word so well. I actually have no problems with it. I'm an economist, so I have no issues with actually people being seen as customers of health services and having the rights and the idea and the participation on it to actually it's not something that is given freely to them. Obviously, the NHS is funded by everyone, and so people have the right to participate and have the right to complain when things are not going as good as we thought they should be. But to answer you, our resilience plan is focused a lot on our primary care network, on reinforcing it, modernizing it, making it more self-sufficient, and reducing the need of the people to go to hospitals when it's not needed for them to go there. Hospital care is much more expensive than primary care, and a lot of times you're just not being efficient because you don't have enough resources in primary care. So that would be one of the answers. So obviously we are concerned with equality. That's one of our main issues: equality of access, equality of care, and that's really important to us. And the participation, which I spoke about it's obviously important to us. But what I would really like that we took from the COVID-19 experience is this idea of a more perfect union, if I'm allowed to be slightly poetic. The European Union a big history. It has a lot to do still. Healthcare has been an area where we are not, we are less integrated than almost every other sector in the European Union. We have a lot of problems with circulating data. We know it's extremely sensitive data, but it's an absurd that if I have a car accident in France, my clinic history is not available to the people that are going to treat me. And so it will be difficult, it will raise a lot of challenges, but either we are European citizens or we are not, and if we are, we have the right to the best care possible wherever in Europe we are. And so we'll have to find a way of, for instance, sharing information, but also, I would say, sharing synergies and the negotiation power with all major players in the supply chain.
Well, many thanks. This is mainly a patient centricity, and if you do it, we need to adapt probably the legislation in order to ensure a better health for every European citizens.
Working on it.
Once again, many thanks, Mr. Secretary of State for Health, for the pleasure to be here with us. Thank you very much. And
it's my pleasure. I welcome you all to a still sunny Lisbon. We've had a wonderful couple of weeks, summer,
yes, still
basically.
Summer.
And I hope it stays like this for at least 2 or 3 days, so you can come out to the world again and enjoying our beautiful sun.
Thank you very much.
So many thanks, Dr. Lopez, for your participation. We're truly appreciative of your time and support in our fight to improve access to health care. And warm congratulations again for the high vaccination rate in Portugal. I'm now very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Hubertus von Baumbach, Chairman of the Board of Managing Directors at Boehringer Ingelheim and current President of the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Association, in short EFPIA. Mr. von Baumbach unfortunately could not travel to be with us here today, but he has chosen to address us through a video message, which we are going to show to you now.
Dear Mr. President Grabner, dear members of the GIRP, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for having me today. For me, it was very important, personally important, to have the opportunity to address you today, because there's one thing I wanted to use the opportunity especially for, and that is to thank you all. To thank you for what? To thank you for helping us to keep our promise to the patients of ensuring availability of the products they needed so desperately, also and especially during the times of the pandemic. Together, we learned in the pandemic that our supply chains are very sensitive. They are especially sensitive to closed borders. But we also learned where we work together, where we ensure shared goals, and where we interact maybe in a way that we have never done it before, we can make sure that we can deliver on this promise, and we did deliver on this promise. And that's why I wanted to thank you all for helping us to make this happen. Thank you very much. I also would like to take today's opportunity to look ahead together with you. The Commission, the current Commission, has put forward a very ambitious industry agenda. One pillar of that industry agenda is addressing our industry. Now, looking back, what together we already have achieved, one thing jumps to my mind, and that is the medicines verification system, the European medicines verification system. Together, we were building it to a successful basis to ensure the safety of our patient. From that very strong experience, looking ahead, I think together we also can contribute to the development of HERA. HERA is an important learning out of the pandemic. It is to address future pandemics, to address the need to be prepared for future pandemics. I think we have a lot to contribute to the development of HERA, a lot of the learnings we have been taking out of past 18 months. We should put them forward and help to make this new institution an effective and an efficient one. Looking forward very much working together with you. Another field is being shaped by the new potential digitization brings to Europe as well as our industry. Digitization depends on data. You have data, we have data. If we learn how to put it together in a good way, in the interest of patients, we will be able to make a significant difference. And we very much look forward to working together with you on this point. Looking ahead, there will be other topics that will come on the agenda. But from the experience of the last few months, of the last years, you and we should have the security that together we can make differences, positive difference, in the interest of patients. We are very much looking forward to working together with you. At this point, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share those thoughts with you, and I don't want to close today with two wishes. First of all, to all of you and your families to stay well, and second, to a successful conference. Thank you very much.
So we warmly thank Mr. van Baumbach for this video message. And I think with this we have deserved a little refreshment. And I would like now to invite you all for the coffee break in the loggia and Dauster room. Our staff will be happy to show you the way. We invite you to take also some fresh air and enjoy some of the sun which is present today with us. And please make sure to return at 4 o'clock sharp for our next keynote address from Mr. Tony Mauro, who is President of Developed Markets at Viatris. Thanks and have a nice break.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise. The promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise. The promise of the future.
Dear Mr. President Grabner, dear members of the GIRP,
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned. as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise. The promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Can we please ask you to take your seats again in order to start the second half of the meeting? So it's now my great pleasure to welcome on stage Mr. Tony Mauro, President of Developed Markets at Viatris, and Doug Long, Vice President, Industry Relations at IQVIA. We are very, very thankful to both of you who have joined us, not through video message or another Zoom call, but here on stage in person. And it is particularly great that you have decided very early when we were drafting the program to make the jump and to say we are coming in person if they allow us in. So we are really happy it worked out. They allowed you in, also maybe not so smoothly, but or you can't go so smoothly back. But great that you have made the effort and you are here with us today. And I would like to pass on to you, Doug, for the moderation. I think there is no further introduction needed because I'm
going to help you down.
Oh, I thought I should help you up, but okay.
No,
thank you.
I'm old, but not that old yet. But
we're all folks, gentlemen.
Good.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. I couldn't wait to come. The first international travel since February 28th, 2020, and I got my buddy Tony here. Tony, we hadn't seen each other in a year and a half, but 2 weeks ago we're on the same plane and going into Colorado Springs, Colorado, so small world. So Tony has got a presentation. Tony is the president of Developed Markets for Viatris, which is the merger between Mylan and Pfizer. So he'll tell us all about that, and then we're going to have a conversation, and we would really appreciate it if you have some questions, because this is your opportunity to ask Tony. What I'm particularly interested about with Tony is, from his point of view, the supply chain. You know, because we talked about the resilience of the supply chain for wholesalers here in Europe, same thing in the U.S., but the generic industry had its own set of unique challenges. So we'll be talking about that. Tony, come on up.
Thank you very much, Doug, and thank you, Monica. And good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many faces, even if they're behind masks. Hopefully there's smiles and there's energy, and people are feeling great to be out again. I give Monica and the whole JERP team so much credit for making this happen. It took a lot of courage, and but boy, I couldn't be happier to be here. Thank you for having us, and I look forward. I know it always seems like whether it's JERP or IFPW meetings, I always get the last section before the cocktail party. So I promise I've got 8 slides. I mandate an 8-slide maximum at Viatris, at least for my business, and I hope to be fairly efficient, but I want to make sure I give you a little glimpse on who Viatris is. I know Magnus from SAP was sitting by me and said, Viatris, I've not heard of this company. Who are these guys? And I walked him through, what Viatris is a combination of the legacy Mylan business throughout the world and the legacy Upjohn business, which is a division of Pfizer. And we came together about a year ago. It's almost our first year's birthday. And we're here celebrating in Portugal, thankfully. But I hope to give you a little idea of who we are, what we do, then certainly the importance of the wholesaler and our customers and what we do in every day. So I'll start off with that. So first, we wouldn't start any presentation, whether it was at Mylan before Viatris, without talking about our mission. You know, Viatris itself is Latin for three paths. It's backwards, path three. And we mean that through access, through leadership, and through partnership. You know, our business is based, as you'll see over the next few slides, about the importance of access, bringing products to market, not just in 35 European countries or North America, but around the world, and why that makes a difference and why we think that differentiates us. But we couldn't do it by ourselves. We need great customers, great distribution partners to ensure these products get to the patients. And it really, that partnership is, and that collaboration is what makes, you know, this industry special, especially during these trying times. So that's our mission. You know, how do we operate and how are we organized? You know, if you look at the Viatris business, it's about an $18 billion revenue-based business, split into 4 segments around the world. I'm responsible for developed markets now, which makes up Europe and North America. We have an emerging markets segment, a segment that covers Japan and Australia, New Zealand, our JAN's business, as well as China. Previously at Mylan, I was a chief commercial officer for 5 years, so I had a oversight of all our businesses around the world. And I can tell you, we've got great new leaders, great talent that's coming to the organization. Many of them from Upjohn, many from Legacy Mylan, obviously, and really, marketing products in 165 different countries to 60,000 customers around the world, 30,000 SKUs. And I heard Doug talk a little bit about supply chain, and we understand the importance of resiliency and getting product to market, and we're making 30,000 SKUs at 50 facilities around the world, plus 600 partners. So it's a lot of management, importance of understanding demand and supply is just critical to our business. So that's kind of how Viatris is set up, how it operates, and how we're organized. So what do we sell? What do we market? Many of these names will probably look very familiar to you, especially the Upjohn branded products like Lyrica, Viagra, Lipitor, Dymista and Creon are Legacy Mylan products, as well as Yupelri in North America. But these big 20 iconic brands that built many of these therapeutic categories over a 20-year period have come on board into the Viatris business. Not just branded alone, but certainly generics. Generics played a huge role in Mylan. They will continue to play a big role in Viatris, a very big role. It's very important we talk about access with affordability. Very critical to ensuring patients around the world have access to these products. And last but not least, biosimilars and complex generics. Products that either are servicing cancer patients, folks with autoimmune disease, products like Humira, biosimilars to Herceptin, and Neulasta. These products, we have 7 biosimilar products that are marketed today. We've got an enormous portfolio, a pipeline of biosimilar products, as well as complex generic products. Products like Copaxone, Advair. Very hard to make, very complicated. Many think impossible, but this has been a challenge that we've taken over a 20-year period and are glad to see these make it to the market and really build out our portfolio, because it's important that customers, patients have these options available to them, and it certainly helps the cost burden within many markets that are strained, especially during this COVID pandemic. So if you look at our business, we have 1,400 molecules sold throughout the world, specifically in Europe. 65% of it now is a branded business. Traditionally at Mylan, we were probably 70% generics, 30% brands. With the addition of Upjohn, we're over 65% brands and about 35% generics and complex generics. And I think what you'll see is that pretty balanced proportions we look out over the next 5 years. Really a balanced portfolio to bring to customers to ensure a full offering. And I think that plays a critical role, not just what we're doing today, but our strategy into the future. So let's talk about Europe. Is Europe an important business for Viatris? We've got a global business, and China's growing, and Doug and his crew will talk tomorrow, I'm sure, about the emerging markets growth and how developed markets maybe was slowing down, maybe not, maybe it's growing again. Europe is an extremely important market for Viatris. It's our largest segment, actually, in the world. We've got 11,000 talented folks working, employees, not just in sales and marketing. We've got 5,000 people working in selling and marketing. We've got 16 plants, whether that's oral dose facilities, whether that is R&D sites. We've got a lot of investment in development and manufacturing products in Europe. We've got a lot of people, we've got a lot of facilities, and at the same time, we're looking to expand that. Last year, we bought Aspen's thrombosis business. for about 700 million euro almost. And we did that because we knew the importance of the institutional, the hospital business to our long-term plan. And that thrombosis business has been very critical, especially during COVID, with folks coming in and out of the hospitals. It's been a great business for us and a great addition to the portfolio in Europe. And I think you'll continue to see that, the investment in portfolio, the investment with our people, and that continued investment in our facilities. All of this matters because of the folks in the room, our wholesale, our pharmacy partners, because last year alone, 1.7 million deliveries were shipped from our distribution centers to yours. And the job you did, especially during a pandemic, we know how difficult that can be, especially when many of these pharmacies require 2, 3, 4 times a day delivery in many of your markets. In other markets, when I say that, they're always in shock, like, who gets a delivery more than once a week? Welcome to Europe. This is a competitive business, and one that we want to make sure we can be your partner of choice when you're looking to grow your business. So I know you've been talking all day today, and you'll hear tomorrow about some of the critical issues and some of the market, the environment nuances we're all going through. Certainly the pressure on public spending. With COVID expense, we know there's going to be continued pressure. We know, whether it's preventative care and looking at how to keep people healthier longer. The demographics are people are aging, they're living longer, and unfortunately they're unhealthier than they have been. So the role that we play is going to be bigger and bigger every year, not just because of new products coming to market, new customers, but just the demographics of our population base. At the same time, the importance of supply chain, not just in security, but in understanding the needs of the local business. We have 16 facilities in Europe because it helps keep it very close to market. It's very important to have your facilities as close to the market as you can be. It doesn't mean we have all of them that way, because we have to think about efficiencies and global scale, and we do that. But understanding the needs of our customers are very important, and then making sure that if there's an opportunity that you have, because I can tell you during COVID we saw much shift in demand, unprecedented shifts in demands actually. Whether it was ICU products, sterile injectable products, we have a list of 20 of them that saw 300% gains on a year-over-year basis. And so we had to be elastic. If there's one thing that I'm very thankful and honored, is that we took the tradition that Mylan had in terms of flexibility and the ability to be elastic with that supply chain. Because it's not a standard curve. You don't have the same amount every month you're selling, especially during a pandemic. Understanding the needs of pharmacy, of hospitals is vital to success. And at the same time, as you're dealing with these changes in our transportation costs, we had 150% changes, growth in inflation in our costs to ship product, just due to the shortages of aircraft, the congestion in that portion of the supply chain. It's come down to about a 35% increase, but it's been a big change, one that we haven't been passing on along the supply chain. But between that and the active pharmaceutical ingredients, we have seen some pretty large changes in the way we're operating from a cost of goods perspective. But all of this is important because of the response. There's so many industries. Every industry has been affected by COVID. And I'm proud. We work for an industry that made an enormous difference in the response to this pandemic. One that we should be very proud of, one that we continue to add in terms of how we can do more, and I think it prepares us better if there ever is something that continue to happen in the future. But supply chain and ensuring the patients get the product is just absolutely critical. So we always know there's going to be environmental challenges and hurdles. I always look at those as great opportunities because it's about solutions. How do you solve these challenges we have in our marketplaces? In Viatris, we did a lot around donations, and we've got COVID self-tests that we've sold through many markets throughout Europe. We've made 7 million doses of remdesivir for India in some of the emerging markets through a partnership we had with Gilead. We've done enormous things around ICU, injectable volume increases to ensure that those patients in most need that need sedated or have respiratory infections, that they've got product available. But first and foremost, it starts with your own people. If there's one thing I could be so thankful for is Viatris, from the executive chairman, our board, all the way down to our management, we put people first. And if you take care of your teams and your people, make sure they're safe, make sure they have the availability to the vaccines or the medicines they might need, to give them special help was really priority number one for us, because we knew we took care of our team, they'd take care of our customers, which was so important because we honestly have had the best service levels in our history. 95% service levels over a time where we've had fluctuating demand in markets across 165 countries. This is unprecedented. And it comes because we put our teams and our people first. And one of the reasons we could have such resilience, such strength in supply chain really was around the diversity of our manufacturing footprint. 50 plants, 600 partners scattered throughout the world, that you have the ability to kind of push and pull and move things as you need to. But honestly, I don't think there was a specific facility that we had an issue over a long period of time that wasn't able to get product to market to get it into patients' hands. And we know how that important is to you and your businesses. So the last slide, before Doug and crew will take questions, is really, how do you achieve this mission? We talk about the Global Healthcare Gateway, and that's really using our commercial infrastructure around the world to bring in more, not just the thrombosis portfolio I talked about, but having small companies that don't have infrastructure bring these products to markets where you operate. So this Global Healthcare Gateway will be a big part of our growth. But we can't do any of this without the partnership of our customers. The wholesale partners we have in Europe, we've got products that go to hospitals, we've got products that go to retail. We're about 86% retail business in Europe. So we understand the importance of our wholesale partnerships. And whether you're in a tender market, a market that's physician-based, whether it's brands or generics or biosimilars, it is about collaboration. It is about win-win solutions. And I'm just thankful we get a chance to talk, meet, and discuss our business, and most importantly, how we can do things together moving on into the future as we end 21 into 22. So thank you so much. I look forward to your questions, and thank you. Doug?
I've got a couple questions in mind, and the purpose is for you guys to ask some questions. So we've talked a lot about the supply chain, and I appreciate a point of view from the generic supply chain, considering that China was shut down for 4 to 5 weeks. Then right after that, India started to shut down because COVID was going through India. Mm-hmm. And the planes were shutting down. There's less planes in the air. There was shipping was shut down, and there's a lot more focus on key starting materials, API, finished dosage forms, and then when you got to COVID vaccines, where the vials come from, where do the syringes come from? Could you talk a little bit about the generic point of view, particularly about how you adapted during that time of shutdowns in China, India, and moving it to Europe and moving it to the United States?
That's a great question, Doug, and one that is asked frequently, and one that I talked a little bit about our physical plant diversity globally. So that helps a little bit, but it certainly doesn't help in markets because we have a very large presence in India. It's been a wonderful operating environment for us. That's why it's also equally as important to make sure you have distribution channels, distribution centers built in markets where you're servicing. We've got a very large repackaging facility in Comoron, Hungary. We've got huge distribution centers in the U.S. that keep several months of product. So even if there's blips in the supply chain, it's not just quarantining and using capital to buy API and syringes and vials and in bottles and blister packs. It's about making sure you have packaging needs close to your markets. And that's one thing that we've made the investment on over the last decade. It's been extraordinarily helpful in us. Like I said, I wish I could come to you every year and say we're going to have 95 to 98% service levels across 30,000 SKUs and 1,400 individual products. We don't. We usually are one of the industry's best, and I can tell you this year has been a stellar year because of those investments we did on the back end.
How much reliance do you have on Chinese, on the China market for raw material and so forth? I know you're probably more key starting materials.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an exact percentage for you. Certainly, I do know we do business with China in terms of intermediate or starting materials that either go through India or other API facilities in Italy or around the world. I would say less worrisome about supply, more worrisome about inflation. There has been some pretty significant inflation in starter materials that's been affecting our cost of goods, and we understand that the struggle with passing costs on. It's tough in an environment in general, let alone a pandemic where healthcare systems are pressured. But these are the balances we have to make in our business in terms of what we make and don't make.
Because you used to be able to ship it by ocean liner, right?
Yeah.
Now a lot of things went through planes.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't afford to be on a ship for weeks upon. So that had to be a tremendous increase in cost on that.
Yeah, I mean it's night and day between the cost of shipping via sea vessel versus aircraft. I mean, but you're right in terms of sometimes there's log jams. You have to. I mean, we would stomach the cost because we would need to make sure we got product in the market.
Now hopefully you don't have any drugs on ships across by Los Angeles right now.
I don't know for sure, but I'm hopeful that's not the case either. I haven't heard that, so I feel comfortable that those are Christmas toys and not our metformin. So.
All right. Next, I want to move to you listed your biosimilars there, and you listed Semglee, and tell the people what's unique about that product.
Well, Semglee is our version of Sanofi's Lantus product. It was approved as a non-interchangeable biosimilar, oh boy, about 9-10 months ago. We launched the product in the U.S. We've launched it in many markets around the world, actually in Europe and a number of markets. And in the U.S. in particular, 90 days ago, it received interchangeable biologic status. It was the first product in the history of the FDA to get this regulatory designation, and one that we're super excited to launch. I mean, the diabetic community is growing due to some of the demographic nuances we all know about. And this is a 100 million pen market just in the U.S. Now, it's a heavily rebated, heavily discounted product, but there's still tremendous opportunity to make a difference in patients' lives. And we're going to be launching that here in the coming months. We announced that publicly. And we've been engaged with stakeholders across the supply chain to make this a reality. So extremely excited. I think the opportunity is great. It's really going to, I think, pave the way for biosimilars, retail-based biosimilars in the future in the U.S. market. I think Europe has developed much faster than the U.S. market has. Some great, some more tender-based, let's call it. But I think Semglee is going to be a proof point because I've heard many call it an impenetrable market, one that's going to be very difficult to penetrate. I think we'll get our fair and balanced share, and we have a great strategy and approach around it. So.
Now, the other one I want to talk about is Humira. Now, you in Europe are familiar with Humira, which is went biosimilar in 2018 in Europe, and it's done. The biosimilar's done quite well here. As part of that deal of launching in 2018 in Europe, is that the American countries were prevented from launching until 2023. So think about it, it's our largest product, Humira, by far. There's 6 biosimilar players going to enter that market sometime during 2023. You have any comments? I mean, that's going to be the Wild West rodeo, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be good fun. I had the pleasure of when we launched Humira here in Europe, watching every market react differently. Every system's different. Europe is a continent, obviously, but you've got 35 countries that act totally different in terms of how they procure the product, which is great. The one thing I can tell you is somebody who grew up in the generic business, you always have to be ready for change. You have to have the strategy, you have to have things in place, but boy, you better be ready to act quickly, and that's one thing we certainly do. And in the U.S., I think in 23, it's hard to say, Doug. I don't know that I have a exact model or quotient. It's an evolving world. Biosimilars are kind of at their infancy, maybe toddler stage. But as you'll talk about, I'm sure tomorrow, almost 50%. I think it's 57% of the top 50 products are biosimilars. If you look at future innovation, it's going to be biologic products. Biologics are going to make up the big portion of where you're going to see growth in the pharmaceutical business. So we need to get this right. And we're committed to do it. We put a lot of capital behind this to ensure it. And I think Humira in 23, what a tremendous opportunity, really, to get affordability. And I think you'll see market expansion. If you want to, we've seen that in many markets where people were waiting a year before they were put on a product like Humira. With the launch of our Julio product and other Humira biosimilars, I think you're going to see expansion. I do think you'll see a competitive landscape, but I think it'll be rational at the same point.
No, it will be. Maybe we can talk about that in 2024 if I'm still working to see exactly what happened.
Likewise.
What happened in the marketplace, because that's truly going to be the more interesting thing. And just one other caveat about biosimilars is that we look at biosimilars two ways in the United States: what's in the medical benefit side, and what's on the pharmaceutical benefit side. The medical benefit side would be the oncology drugs. It would be the supportive care drugs, and they've done quite well in the United States. And Humira will be the first one in really the pharmacy benefit. Be interesting to watch. And right behind that is a lot of the anti-inflammatory immunology category goes biosimilar. So that's one to really keep an eye on. And so, does anybody have any questions? You can tell that when they get close to cocktail hour, is that you never get a lot of questions.
I hope I didn't woo them to sleep. That would be my goal.
Well, that might mean that we've answered every conceivable question.
Oh, we've got one. We've got one question.
I knew Per would come through.
Okay, I could speak loudly over the room here. Tony, a lot of what you heard here earlier for the Commission was availability of drugs. We know all the reality that a lot of the product shortages that occur is actually off-patent medicine. Just the type of portfolio in Europe, it's 80% of all reported. Now, we also know that there is a tremendous number of products, so 80% might still be underrepresented, how many SKUs there are on the overall market. But how do you look from your own let's say, company and planning point of view? Why do we see as many? And you're good on reporting them too. And do you feel that you have a reasonably good control over the issue? But you're also damn good on reporting. What's your comment about this with shortages, and how should we avoid shortages of these mature products?
No, it's a great question, Per. Always great questions from you. But one that maybe I'll answer in a not too controversial way, but 30,000 SKUs, we have 1,400 individual products, many of them, the great majority are off-patent generic products. There is a point, I think, of market saturation where we have to be very considerate in markets of statutory decreases that really, because we have to be responsible business people too, and we do look at our portfolio. We look at it quarterly, annually to trim, let's call it trim, the portfolio we need to when the competitive landscape and the cost of goods just don't align, and we continue to see mandatory declination on a year-over-year basis. I do think there's probably some regulatory or statutory things we continue to work on to make sure we can keep products in market. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges generic suppliers have, not just that they're facing inflation from active pharmaceutical ingredients or transportation, but there becomes a point where if you've been 10 years post-launch and you face annual decreases, there is a point of no return for us, and we have to be responsible. It's never our choice, I'll tell you that. We do everything we can to keep products in market, but we do have to be responsible fiduciaries to organizations and make sure we do everything we can to either get lower COGS, renegotiate where we have to. But I do think there's ways that we could work together in the system with regulators, et cetera, with governments, with payers to ensure we have that fair balance, because you would never want to see a generic go off the market and then the patients move to higher cost brands. That kind of defeats the purpose of the affordability in the healthcare system. So I think it's a teamwork. It's a team, kind of thing. So.
Well, to your point, Per, is that what the U.S. pharmaceutical or generic market is, what either you could say it's shrink to grow, or portfolio optimization. And what they face in the United States, there's 3 buyers that control 91% of all the generic purchasing, and that has caused deflationary pressure on the prices are going down rather than going up. And a big interesting thing is the same time our FDA, Office of Generic Drugs, is approving hundreds of new products every year, 90% of which are already players on the marketplace. And it used to be 5 years ago is 70% of those product approvals would get launched. The last year and a half is less than 30% have got launched. So people have gone through the whole process of getting a product approved to market, but there's no commercial value for that product.
Yeah, and I think and I love all buyers, by the way, big, small, doesn't matter where you're located, I'm going to like you. And it's really our opportunity to make sure we've got a customized portfolio for whether it's one of 30,000 pharmacists in France or one of the 3 large consortium buyers in the U.S. So the opportunities just abound.
So any other questions?
Tom, I have 2 questions. We're talking a lot now about digitalization and e-health, and how you translate what European Union and all this kind of challenges are in front of us we need to adopt to our business. How Viatris will be adopting this into your strategy? I'm thinking also from patient perspective. This is question number 1. And second, you were talking about the access. And when I'm looking for the map, which countries you are responsible, they are big elephants. And they are, in the end, probably very, very small countries. Let's say Albania, 3 million people. And how you prove that all this long list of products are really accessible for the local patients?
No, thank you for that question. I think, first of all, your first question on e-health, I mean, so critical, especially we learned during COVID, we've got 5,000 salespeople, throughout Europe, and, we hear often, we knew that, having a salesperson go to see a physician, they did 160,000 calls a year to physicians. During COVID, they couldn't see anyone. So how did you get access? Well, thankfully, through Zoom, through all these digital tools, and some of the things that Upjohn brought, let's call it, to the Legacy Mylan organization was a real expertise and knowledge around this digital omni-channel platform, this e-health you're talking about, ensuring we have, these capabilities and patients can access, get knowledge and education about our products that, quite frankly, we didn't have, this expertise in our Legacy Mylan business. So I do think digitalization, whether it's from the marketing, the omni-channel perspective, and or the way we call on doctors, the way we call on pharmacies, is evolving and changing. I don't think it's going to go back to how it was exactly in the past. I think it'll be a hybrid, and we'll continue to watch and monitor and make sure we're servicing our customers to the greatest ability. The second question around some of the smaller markets, honestly, for developed markets, Europe and North America are pretty well established, but every country is important to us. We didn't have, people, feet on the ground in some of the smaller EU countries or countries in Eastern Europe. We do now, I can say that. So, but we're always exploring, do you bring these products, certain generics to these markets? Do you not? Many of them are prescription-based, physician kind of generated prescription markets, as you guys know. The great news is now we have a selling force where we may not have had that before. We've got a great presence in Romania. We've done well in the Czech Republic and others. So, it's always, I can tell you, every time we have business performance reviews and strat plans, every market matters. Not just the big 5 EU or the US. Every market makes a difference, and we need to focus on them where it makes sense. So, thank you.
Any others? If not, well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't kiss today. So, thank you very much, Doug. I think I cannot remember any annual meeting and conference without you having been present and moderated. And Tony, I think after Dublin, it's the second time you have been with us, and we hope you become a permanent guest at our annual meetings and conferences. Thank you for that great discussion, it was very interesting. And I am now pleased to officially close the first day of our conference. When planning this first in-person meeting, we had high hopes of an engaging discussion, and I think you have even bypassed our hopes and expectations, so a very big thank you to both you and Doug. We were very honored and pleased that Vice President Skinas, he came in person after having only initially confirmed to be here via video call or conference call, and he decided 10 days ago that he can make it, and it really came. So we were very happy, and also about the recognition of our sector, which he has clearly expressed. And we hope that we get it there, that will now become part of the critical infrastructure, but I think the messages we got from him were very positive. I would also use the opportunity to thank all of our members, to warmly congratulate them and applaud them, as well as their staff, either in the warehouses, the drivers, the technical directors, people that had to go on site to ensure that patients get access to the medicines across Europe. I think in all countries our sector managed that the patients did not need to go without their medicines, even in the most difficult of times. Memories are short, and it's our first in-person meeting, and I wanted to take the occasion to really warmly thank you for that. So I think without further ado, and you're all waiting for the cocktail, so get freshened up. We are going to go to For San Julião. Excuses for our Portuguese members, maybe my pronunciation is not correct. The bus will leave at 7, and we kindly ask you to be in the lobby at 6:50 that we can swiftly board the buses. Please kindly wear your mask on the bus. Also, this is Portuguese legislation at the moment. And otherwise, we are looking forward to a very pleasant evening and to catch up, and looking forward to see you a little bit later for the bus departure. Thank you, and tomorrow at 9 sharp, we are going to open with Mr. Rui Santos Ivo, the head of the Portuguese Medicines Agency, Infamed. Please don't forget the masks in the morning, and have a nice evening. Enjoy. Thank you.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise. The promise of the future.
In this changing world, you can rely on us to meet all the supply chain challenges. We provide solutions, reducing your environmental impact. We are ready for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a promise, the promise of a new future, of successes earned, as we promise our customers to help them drive healthcare forward. Our customers are inspiring us to reimagine how healthcare should work, where human ingenuity can finally unleash the power of ever-expanding health information, analytics, and technology. Where clinical trials are designed around the patient, where predictive analytics prevent medical errors before they happen, where all healthcare players work together to make patients' lives better, where every medical decision is informed by evidence, where treatment costs reflect the value they bring, where precision medicines seamlessly find their way to the right patient. It's the promise delivered by mobilizing unparalleled data, analytics, technology, and expertise, connecting stakeholders to improve health around the world. The promise rooted firmly in data science and domain expertise, the promise of the future.